Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalina. Let's talk leadership. Hello and good to be back. We are exploring The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence, Scovel, Shinn. This is such a fun book. I actually won it, had a bingo in Nashville. I was driving by a church. We were there for about a week, and it said, bingo, Thursday, 12 p.m. And I thought, okay, that's great, and continued on with my day. And then Thursday rolled around, and I was just feeling restless. I was at the hotel and had done some work, and it was a really stressful week trying to meet a deadline, and I gotta get out of here. And so I remember maybe, 11:30 or something, leaving the hotel and kind of driving and thinking, okay, I don't know, maybe I'll go grab some lunch. Like, where am I going to go? And the road I ended up driving on was this church, and I saw again, bingo, Thursday, 12 p.m. And I thought, oh, today's Thursday. And so I stopped in, and it was like 11:45, and I thought, wow, that's, couldn't have planned it. And to me, that's exactly what I was talking about in the last episode about the Holy Spirit. It's this guidance, it's this subconscious, thing that it just comes to you. And we call it all kinds of things, right? We can call it just coincidence or fate or, but it was in my subconscious. It was in the back of my mind somewhere, this bingo. And part of me remembered that it was then. But consciously, I wasn't thinking to myself, okay, it's almost 12 o'clock, let's go to bingo, time to go, So just interesting how things happen in that way. And that's the whole reason why people talk about, the power of suggestion or subliminal messaging, or it's like, that's what it is. It's the things that you read or see, the movies, music, all these things you expose yourself to. They're coming into your field of attention, but you might not be fully paying attention to them, right? But the subconscious is. So the subconscious was paying attention to that sign, and my conscious mind did acknowledge, it's like, oh, bingo, that's nice. But I kept on moving. It didn't really hit like, oh, I've got to go to this bingo. I mean, I don't play bingo. That's just not, it's fun, but it's not something I put in my calendar and was committing to or signed up for or anything like that. I just thought, oh, nice, bingo. And that's a thing. If you listen to certain types of music, watch certain types of videos, engage with certain types of people, read things, all of that, you could consciously say, oh, that's nice, or oh, that's awful, or oh, that's scary, or, you watch a scary movie and you think, oh, that was terrifying. But some part of your subconscious picks up on that fear, picks up on that unsettled, picks up on the violence that you're watching in the news, picks up on the anger, picks up on all of those negative emotions, and has that there saying, oh, wow, the world's unsafe, the world is this, the world is that, or things are not good, or like it starts thinking all of these things. Similarly, when you fill your mind with goodness, then you're also thinking, oh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, it's, the weather's really nice. It's sort of like when the weather forecast, which we all know, no matter where you live, we know the weather can be forecasted incorrectly a certain percentage of the time. Percentage, I'll leave up to you. But, it says, oh, the weather is this. And you pack your bag, you put a rain jacket or boots or a coat, or you think, okay, or you don't even make the plan because you think, oh, it says it's going to rain. I'm not going to go swim. I'm not going to go on that walk. Let's stay inside. And you're anticipating, right? And you're taking that to be the truth. And yet, once you get outside, how many times has it not been what you thought, or what they thought, rather? And so it's the same sort of thing of what you listen to makes you anticipate certain conditions, makes you see the world in a certain way, even though once you actually experience it, once you get outside and actually see it, it's like, oh, wait, I didn't really need that sweater, right? Or, oh, I didn't really need, and it's not to say, okay, don't prepare. It's nice to have, a rain jacket and an umbrella in your car when when it starts to rain. That's a nice thing, right? So this isn't about not being prepared, but it is about if you count yourself out of things or just noticing how your behavior can change based on something that is anticipatory. It's not real, right? Or not real yet. So you can, of course, prepare for things. But being prepared at a certain level is exceptionally different. It's actually totally different from being in the present moment and acknowledging the truth, right? Which is, okay, it's raining, so I need the umbrella. Now, sure, it's good to have the umbrella. It's good to have snacks when you're going to go on a long hike. It's good to, again, preparation. I'm not condemning preparation. I'm just saying, interesting to see what you're anticipating and then what comes your way. And do you respond by using those preparations as truth? Do you count yourself out of situations just because you've anticipated something? So, okay, better not, don't even go. The risk is too high. Or do you prepare and then assess the true situation at hand when you're in it? So, anyhow, that was a tangent I didn't intend to go on. But, hey, if there's a bingo that catches your eye, you might like to go. And I met some really lovely ladies that were 90 and 95 and just some beautiful, smart, wise. It was such an just random event that will stay with me forever. So really nice time, and picked up, or won rather, this book, The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence, Scovel, Shinn. So what I'd like to do is just walk you through, I mean, if you want the book, I'll link to it. So this, I have to say, when it comes to, like, when you read other, I don't know, if you read the Bible, it's just, it can be dense and difficult, right? This is just the most clear cut. It's a small book, like 80 pages? Yeah, 85 pages. And I've got to tell you, just such a clear cut read. I love it. I love things that just get to the heart of the matter. And she really does that. So, all right. First things first is that life is a game. She really defines that it's not a battle, it's a game. And so you need to know the laws or the rules of the game. And her approach is that the Old and the New Testaments of the Bible really give the rules of the game. She says with wonderful clearness, but I would argue that her book is much more concise and clear, although it doesn't encompass every single wisdom of the Bible. But it really does a good job of laying it out super simply, which I appreciate. And her thought is that Jesus Christ taught that it was a great game of giving and receiving, right? You reap what you sow. Life is a give and take. I want to give and receive. I like receive. It has a different feeling to it, the word. Which, by the way, what you say matters. Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. But life is a game. That is the title of the book, but also the first real chapter is to understand that. Understand that you can change your conditions by changing the way you play the game of life, which comes from knowing the rules, obeying the rules, and changing your thoughts and words. Very important. So, and we've heard this before. We've heard the power of words multiple times from multiple sources, and you know it to be true. What you say really does bear weight. It matters. It will influence other people. It also changes the way you feel. The specific words you use have different meanings. So, obviously, if you pick one word over another, it's different. Okay, life's a game. Let's play it, and let's know the rules. Next is law of prosperity. And the idea is that God is man's supply, and you have to have perfect faith in your spoken word. You have to trust your spoken word, because that's where prosperity comes from. It comes from having faith in the word. So it's not just saying things, it's not just the word itself, but it's actually also having faith in the word, and that there is supply for every demand if you have perfect faith. Now, that is a fun rule to get to figure out, right? Because, of course, we say things we don't mean, we've talked about the subconscious already. If you say something, but deep down you don't have true faith, you can say things all day long. That's why people come to me and they talk about how affirmations don't work. Yeah, of course they don't work if you're just giving lip service to something that you don't fully believe. So say things you believe. And not believe only in that rational mind way, but in the gut feeling kind of way, in the this is truth way, in the your subconscious resonates with it, right? Like, so there's not a part of you saying, right? It's like you look in the mirror, I'm beautiful, but there's part of you going, but this, but that, and you pick yourself apart. No, the inner critic part of you has to be on board. And so that means you need to really be thoughtful about, okay, do I mean this? Are all parts of me in alignment with this? There's an episode I recorded on internal family systems, relates to this beautifully, because there are parts of you. The inner critic's going to be critical and judgmental. And so make sure that that part can agree. And so maybe, I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. Maybe that's, doesn't feel fully aligned for you. Okay. I mean, someone else probably thinks that truthfully. And we're all beautiful in our own way, and we can say all sorts of, but again, if it's like you're saying that, you think, yeah, whatever, it's a platitude, that's nice. It's like, no, okay, well, look at yourself genuinely then, and be truthful about what it is you actually think. Okay, I have kind eyes. Yeah, okay, I can, okay, I have a nice smile. All right, I think that about myself. Okay, I really like the color of my hair or the length of my hair. Like, get specific and say things that actually you believe. So that would be my that's not what she says, but I'm saying that. But she does say that the adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the army of aliens which must be put to flight. This explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. So, you want this thing, you're wanting to speak it into being, you're holding the vision, but often there's failure and discouragement before it comes to be, and that's because you've hopefully seen yourself receiving what it is you want to have, but there's doubt there. And so the idea is to be unwavering in your faith that you will get the desires of your heart. But we have to be mindful that it might not be the exact way you think. The path is what might not be there. But the desire, the vision you have, hold that, speak it into existence, and have that true faith in it. So law of prosperity is to have absolute faith in your word. Speak your word with perfect faith, and you will have what you want. The law of prosperity. Next chapter, power of the word. A little bit different in terms of we're not talking about prosperity now or in what we want, but we are saying overall, hey, you need to give word to what's true. And you are pulling the strings of your subconscious and of your conscious and of your whole life by speaking things out. So, whatever you continually speak about, be careful, because that's what's coming to you, right? So, and that's not just speaking about to other people, although saying it out loud is powerful. It's also, what are you thinking about all day long? Really taking inventory of that. And I know it sounds simplistic, but that's a thing, I think, with life, is some of the greatest wisdoms are simple. They're just, we have to put some effort into applying them, and we want either quick fixes or we don't want to. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. I think just fine. And you want to move along and continue being the way you are, but then for your circumstances to change, and that just doesn't work, right? If you're going to think a certain way, and you've been thinking that way for 20 years, your outcomes are going to be the same. And that's really why people come to coaching, is they show up and they have a story, and they tell me their story. They tell me why they are where they're at or what they're wanting, but there's something getting in the way, and we have to work on those limiting beliefs so that they have the law of prosperity on their side and the law of the words, right, as well, the power of the word, And they take those two things and they really bring things to life because they have that faith that they're bringing it to be, and they're using their words in a way that's supportive. And I know it could sound like, who cares how I say it, right? It's like it's all about what I do. And yes, but it's sort of like paddling with one oar in one direction and another one, right? So if you're constantly telling yourself negative things, but you're acting in a positive way, like, why counteract that? Why counteract the good actions? Why not tell yourself, oh yeah, I'm doing this one step at a time, or I'm headed in the right direction. But hey, try it out for yourself. See how it goes. What words bring good things to your life? What words make you feel and act differently? It's like getting dressed in the morning. Different clothes, you have a different feeling. Same idea. Okay, next law of non-resistance. Resist not evil, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Nothing on earth can resist an absolutely non-resistant person. The Chinese say that water is the most powerful element because it is perfectly non-resistant. It can wear away a rock and sweep all before it. So there are a lot of people right now, especially, that talk about spiritual warfare, and the idea is just essentially that there are no two powers. Like, there is no good and evil. If you listen to the episode previously on it's called Conversations with God, the idea of these polarities of good and evil, it's a very worldly concept. But if we look at it from a God level, it's a trinity. There's an eternal nature of things where there is no judgment, there is no good and bad, at least in the conception of what is shared in that book, and what I think makes sense, because things just are. And so evil, and she is reinforcing, Florence Scovel Shinn here, is reinforcing the idea by saying, therefore evil is a false law man has made for himself through psychoma or soul sleep. So it's a carnal or mortal thought, and his affairs have outpictured his illusions. And so, as we spoke about in the Holy Trinity episode, the one just before this, and as she says here, that man's soul is his subconscious mind, whatever he feels deeply, good or bad, is outpictured by that faithful servant. You are going to get that subconscious piece and what you've been picturing. But the idea is to not resist things. So if you can stay in right thinking, use your words effectively, send out goodwill to others, and be without fear, and not resist things as they arise. And this, another way to think of non-resistance would be surrender. A lot of people use that word, right? But the idea of this is that saying you don't want to be something, you're bringing it in. And this is actually, it's interesting because in coaching training, we learn about neurolinguistic programming, and the idea that the words you either use move toward or move away from language. And so if you were a resistant person, if you weren't following this law, you would be somebody that's trying to avoid things, right? I don't want to be a doormat. I don't want to be this and that. But you're calling that in by being that. And so if you allow and surrender, you will be in the right direction and in harmony much easier, essentially. So it's a faith in a sense. It's a faith that you can't lose anything that's not meant for you. You can't, what is for you will be, what's right will prevail. It's kind of this idea, right? Like, if you can get into, so you are using the law of prosperity to imagine what you desire, and then getting your thinking in alignment with that. You're using your words in alignment, and then anything that you don't want, you're essentially, instead of calling it to yourself, you're repelling it by saying, hey, look, nothing sticks to me that's not for me, right? And if something comes my way that's difficult, you're going to figure it out and allow things to unfold without trying to resist negative outcomes. Because the more you try to prepare or resist a negative outcome, the more likely you're bringing it to yourself. So that's that one. And I think essentially it's another way of talking about surrender, that law. Yeah. Okay, so the next one, law of karma, law of forgiveness. So as we said in the previous chapter, life's a game, giving and receiving. These laws say you receive only that which you give, and that life is a game of boomerangs, thoughts, deeds, and words return to you sooner or later. So the law of karma, when it comes to Sanskrit, means comeback. So you reap what you sow again. And we heard this in the beginning of the book. It's being reinforced here. When you're impatient with someone, you're going to get it back. And it's not, the challenge with karma is that you don't do something right in this moment and get it back the very next second. Always, right? It's not always the case. And so it's easy to kind of think, oh, my actions don't have equal reactions, but they do. And you'll feel it. And when you're not great to people, it'll come back. And it'll come back to bite you. And the lying and deception, any and all of it, it'll come back to you. So really being in alignment with that is important. So this one we know, we've heard of before. And I think we just try to think we can cheat the system, but you cannot fool yourself. You cannot. You just can't. So absolutely think about what you're putting out there because it's coming back to you. And the next one is the law of forgiveness. And this one, man, forgiving is tough. I'm sure you've heard about the idea that, if you hold on to resentments, it hurts you more than the person you're frustrated or angry with, right? Which, I get that. Again, your desires, your feelings, they need to be channeled and directed in the correct way. And so anger needs to be transmuted. You need to be able to let go, give the situation up, and forgive so that you can move on. Now, easier said than done, but if you can relinquish your personal will, if you can say, hey, this just feels too big for me. There's so much pain, there's so much hurt from this person or this situation. This is bigger than me. If you can do that and surrender, throw your hands up in the air, that law of forgiveness, you will get there. But I can't, I'm just giving you the summary of the book. I am not telling you I'm perfect because I'm not. And this is not me saying I've got these all mastered. This is me just relaying information. And I do think that the best way with forgiveness is to, one way or another, I think if the person's in your day-to-day life, you have to forgive. If you're married to someone, if you live with someone, if someone's family, if you see someone as having to be an enduring presence over your entire course of your life because they're going to be around, I think it's easier to figure out that you should forgive. It might not be easier to forgive because there are many things to forgive. When there's someone that you barely know, it rolls off because you're not attached. So I think there's an attachment piece to it. Again, if we're talking about life being a game of giving and receiving, it's like, okay, so this person gives you a lemon. You really want to give them a lemon back? You really want to give them the same thing back that they gave you? It might feel good in the moment, but it's petty and you know that it's not going to feel good long term. So cut it loose. And if you need to interact with that person, I say give it up and surrender it. Say, this is too big for me. This person's got to deal with their own stuff. They're clearly hurting. They're clearly putting out stuff that they will reap that, right? If karma is you get what you give, then one consoling thought is, hey, this person's hurting you. They're hurting themselves. And so it's not getting anyone anywhere. And think about that from your perspective as well, right? And if there are apologies to be made, great, make them, and that doesn't guarantee forgiveness on the other party's side, but if there are people that you think, hey, I could be giving out a bit of humility and a few apologies, if you think that's you in certain settings, then I mean, that's awesome. Be that bigger person and be upfront about it. Now, it's easy for me to say this to you over a voice note, in a conversation. But I do think if you soften your heart, like if we're coming from a place of love, we all know that that's the way. And so getting to that place of softening to say, all right, I'm not gonna resist the scenario. Going to be not just the bigger person, but you're really ultimately doing it for yourself. It's not a bigger person thing. Nobody gets a medal for forgiveness. It really comes down to, I am not going to allow this to burden me anymore. And so you can give up your burdens, you can have a conversation face to face, do what you got to do. But I say figuring out the law of forgiveness is probably number one on the list, especially if you're somebody that holds grudges. Okay, next one, casting the burden, impressing the subconscious. So, as we've said multiple times in this episode, impress the subconscious with good. Fill your tank with positive things that you want, with the truth. Be functioning on the levels. This is why everyone says be like Jesus, because the whole image of Jesus is to be functioning on levels of perfection, completion, life, and joy. It's like, let go of your burden, impress your subconscious mind with light. And so, as I said with the forgiveness piece, casting the burden, I didn't mean to do that, but here we are. Do that for everything is the next law. Essentially, cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. Let the goodness in, let the difficulties, give it up to God, I think it seems like a cop-out, maybe in some lights you could say, oh yeah, okay, I'll just give it up to God. Like, I've got a mortgage payment, I've got a health issue, like life's hard, what? Still have to go to my doctor's appointment, or still have to pay the bill. Yes, on a worldly level, you still have to figure out how to pay the bill in one way or another. But if you have faith and you can not allow the heaviness to be on you, that's going to free you up to actually think clearer, to find a solution, and for a solution to find you. So if you could say, you know what, this just feels... Now, that's different from being disillusioned and just hiding, right? It's not like, oh, God will take care of your mortgage, just like cast the burden and don't worry about it. Not worldly things, but the heaviness, the emotional heaviness, this spiritual, like the soulful kind of, that feeling of being weary and tired and just worn down, throw that up, man, and just say, you know what, enough, and the right thing's going to find me. I'm going to figure this out, so it's more that spirit of weariness, the feeling that everything's on you, the weight of the world feeling. Give that up. The weight of the world is not on you. Things are going to be, your path will be made straight. Oh, it helps so much to do that, man, because it's just, you're not actually able to do everything, and it's just such a relief to say, you know what, like, there's no one human being on this earth, not even the most powerful, not the richest, no, there's not one human being that's got total control of everything, or whose problems are all sorted out all the time. Like, you're living this life, and there are things along the road, and there will continue to be things along the road, and no matter where you're at socioeconomically, health things, money things, affairs of the heart, like relationships, it doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, in a sense. Like, the struggles of the world will be upon you in one way or another. And so, cast it up, man. That's what I say. I really do. And then go back to that faith of, hey, things work out for me. I do find a way. You have to be fearless in that design that you have for the vision you have. Okay, I'm figuring out how to pay the mortgage. I am seeing myself as healthy. This heaviness, I'm going to give it up because it's not all on me and I don't have to do this alone. It's a really good feeling. All right. Love. Well, I think we all understand the commandment, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love one another. We've heard it time and time again. I think a different piece, and we know the joy of giving, right? And love is giving. It's selfless. It's free from fear. And so a big thing would be unselfish love draws to itself its own. And so we know we can think of the love of a mother and a child. We can think of pure love, any pure love. You're not expecting anything in return. You're not doing it in any kind of manipulative way. That's what we're talking about. And it truly will bring more of it to you. So, very simple concept again in this chapter. And she gives some examples. But really, and this is, relevant if you're dating, married. But it's like perfect love you give out freely. It's not selfish. You don't have an ulterior motive. And that's the pure love that we want to give out, because anything else will bring you back. Well, not perfect love. And so if you're looking for love, if you're looking for a partner and you're casting out doubt and fear and you're being manipulative or you're playing games or you're being insecure, it's going to come right back at you. And you'll see it one way or another. So picture what you want. Bring love from a sincere place. And then what is returned to you will be pure as well. And that mimics the other law. It's just in relation to love in a sense, I suppose, and that it needs to be unselfish and pure and free from fear. Okay. Intuition or guidance. If you listen to the episode on the Holy Trinity, this is aligned with that, the Holy Spirit. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. It's let thy will be done, thy being God. Speak the word, and then wait for a definitive lead. So, Infinite Spirit, reveal to me the way. Let me know if there's anything for me to do. Let the Holy Spirit, let the guidance, your conscience, whatever word you want to insert, let that guidance give you the indication. It's really what this chapter is saying, and they'll give you an unmistakable lead as to where to go. My lovely bingo example, but you'll start seeing it if you pay attention to it, and if you have a big decision, this one's really good for you. It's like, what are you? And we know deep down, don't we just, we trick ourselves? Or we try to kind of rationalize which option's better, and we make lists, but deep down you know which one is calling your name, and it might not be the rational one. And we see this all the time in relationships, and what you should do versus where your soul's calling. And that doesn't mean so I'm not saying, today I feel like this is hard, and so I'm going to quit, and that's what I feel like I should do, and so that's what I'm going to do. No, that's an ego-led process. What I'm talking about is where you're being led by that thing outside of yourself, your conscience. So, I should stay. That's like a guilt thing. But in your heart of hearts, it's like, no, I'm staying because I made this lifelong commitment, and that's what marriage is to me, and I know that that's what's right and true. Not because I should, because it's going to be hard to get a divorce and society thinks ill of me, or I should take this job because it's got more pay and it's a fancy office and I'll be better off. It's like, yeah, but if in your heart of hearts it's not for you, don't do that, right? And I mean, if you do, it's a game. You can play the game how you want. You can pick whatever card. It's not that there's a quote unquote punishment, right? It's that if you draw a certain card and you make a certain move, here's what will happen as a result. So it's a cause and effect story, this book. It's telling you if you do it, the decisions you make, you're going to take certain directions, and it's trying to help to guide and say, look, follow your intuition, because if you don't follow that, if you do things from a place of fear, if you do things from a place of should, if you do things from an ego-driven place, you're going to end up in the wrong spot. You can test that theory, you can deny that theory, but that's the nature of the universe. It's the way things work, and so it will come back to bite you. And I'm sure you've seen it in your life. So this stuff is not revelatory in the sense that it's something we've never maybe heard. I think the way she presents it is done well. But what I will say is, I should be living this out day to day, and it's a short book. It's a short list of rules, but I personally can tell you I'm not living this out in pure perfection day in, day out. And that's the key, is you can have the knowledge, you can have this book, you can have the rules of the game, and yet how are you playing it, right? So what are you putting into action? And that's the reminder of this episode of this book. That's the whole point, is to have a book like this around and say, oh man, you know what? Yeah, haven't been following my intuition or my guidance, haven't been following what I should be doing. Oh dude, I know that I'm leading myself astray. Okay, let me pick myself back up and start making the right moves. So it's about checking yourself and making sure that you're playing the rules of the game correctly so that you thrive. Okay, the next one is perfect self-expression, or the divine design. No wind can drive my bark astray, nor change the tide of destiny. So the idea is, and we've heard this before as well, right? But it's like, no one can fill your shoes. No one is you. You are a unique, perfect idea in divine mind, and you need to live out your unique path, talents, gifts. And she's got a framework in this book. The perfect plan includes health, wealth, love, and that perfect self-expression. And so she calls that the square of life, which brings perfect happiness. And so health is the body, right? Wealth is that prosperity law. Love, we spoke about. Love is that giving. And then perfect self-expression is also giving. So if you think of it as like health and wealth are things that come to you, right? They're things that fill you up. And love and perfect self-expression are things that you give away. That's one way I would think about it. Perfect self-expression will never be labor, but of such absorbing interest that will seem almost like play. And we talk, in the Bible they talk about becoming like a child again. And we see that in people all over the career world. Follow your passion. I mean, the idea of that is not follow what's fun all the time. But when you're doing something that really aligns with you, it will feel like play. It will feel fun. It'll be worth the effort. It'll be worth the bumps in the road, if any. It will be worth honing in those skills. Learn to demand the definite leads from the last chapter. Hey, am I headed in the right direction? Give me the lead where I should go. What should I be doing? Let God's will be done, and then become the embodiment of that divine design. Become the force that you're meant to be. Use the talents that you have inherently. That doesn't mean everybody's supposed to be Shakira or Adele or whatever, Justin Bieber. It doesn't mean that fame, it's not about fame. It's not even about being the top of your field. For some people, their divine design, their perfect self-expression is the day-to-day, living that out, being a good member of the community, seeking out ways to be both a leader and a follower within your local community. And that's your divine design. Not everybody is going to be Oprah. And that might not be your divine design. And there are challenges that come with that too. And we glorify certain life paths, but we've really got to think about, what's the actual lead that I'm being given? Where am I? And where am I right now? Because seasons too, right? It's like, oh yeah, you want to be here? Well, where you were at when you were 16, that's great for that period of time, but where are you supposed to be now? Where are you being guided to? So being really careful about being in the present moment, about what your best perfect self-expression is now versus having your own defined path. So there we go. Final thing is denials and affirmations. And so really it's just saying, if you desire something, make the demand, but make the demand for the divine selection or the highest good, or as we've said, I literally just said, right? I want to live out perfect self-expression. Say that. When you define what that is, when you think that you know where you're meant to be, I mean, you can have visions and you can have ideas, and if your heart's calling you somewhere, there's a reason there's a reason you love to play guitar, or you love to cook, or you love to golf. Like, there's a reason you love the things you love. That's your perfect self-expression. Follow that. But the idea of denials and affirmations is to say, follow what you declare, and what you're affirming needs to be that you're in the right position, you're going in the right direction, you're doing the right things to follow what's the highest, what's in the highest good of everything, not your will. You know? Which is hard, because it's so easy to get in your head, no, this is how it should be, this is what I want, but if you're saying, I need to be with this person, it needs to be this exact person for my life to flourish, it's like, no, I want the right partner for my life path and what I need and who I can love best. Or, I want the wealth that's meant for me, or the house that's meant for me, or the right child that will come to me in the right timing. Like, trusting that you are going to get the best of what's expected, or the best of what's meant for you. Not expected, the best of what's meant for you. And so calling that in, right? It's like it's to have desires, but to know that the way that comes to be isn't necessarily the way you will it to be, the way you think it should be. And that's where how you affirm things, how you ask and are thankful for things changes, because the denials and affirmations you make will be different if you're coming from an ego place or from that highest good place. Give me the house that's meant for me. Give me the best home that's meant for me. You need a home? Sure. Absolutely. Great desire. Makes sense. Show me the way to find the house that's meant for me. And I promise you, the house, the partner, right? We said health, we said wealth, we said love, we said perfect self-expression, that perfect square of life. It's all coming to you if you allow it to come to you in the right way. If you try to will it and force it into existence, bumpy road. And I can attest to my personal experiences for sure, being that when I try to will something into existence, it's disaster. When I declare what I want but allow it to come to me in the way it's meant to come to me, things work out much better. So that's the game of life and how to play it. Quick summary by me, authored by Florence, Scovel, Shinn. Thank you for listening. As always, reach out with feedback, comments, ideas. If there's something you want to hear about, reach out. And take good care until next time.